Hello, everyone. I'm Renown Zero. We are back yet again talking about a new report suggesting that the games industry is failing the alphabet mafia, failing the alphabet community because apparently the games industry should appease the very minuscule percentage of people that are part of that community, not the huge percentage of people that are straight and male that play video games. Yes, there are people that are part of that community that play video games, but for the most part, the biggest demographic of gamers are white, straight males. Nobody cares, Kotaku, that they're failing the alphabet players because of more representation. Nobody cares. This comes to us, like I said, from Kotaku. Advocacy group GLAD has run the numbers, and they're not great. I've known the representation in games mattered ever since that day. 1987, when I finished Metroid and discovered that intergalactic bounty hunter Samus Aran was that rarest of things for the time, a cool female video game protagonist. I doubt you ever finished Metroid. I've loved playing as Mario or Link or any intrepid hero, but I was particularly thrilled to see a game that to say that women can be heroes too. Now with games a more important cultural force than ever, because it's the biggest entertainment industry. It's bigger than the movie industry. It's bigger than the TV industry. The influential media advocacy organization GLAD has released its first ever in-depth report examining how games are doing in terms of alphabet mafia representation. The data strongly suggests that on one hand, games play an important role in the lives of many queer players, particularly queer youth. No, there's no such thing as queer youth. Stop it. Those are called groomed children. And on the other, that games are falling far short in terms of adequately representing and reaching those players because they're not a big community of people that play games. Majority of people that play video games want to see beautiful straight women in their video games. As you see with all the controversy going around with Stellar Blade and people believing, green-haired weirdos in New York believing that women don't look like the character in Stellar Blade, even though it was modeled after an actual Korean model. The report released today is packed with interesting and important statistics collected in partnership with the media data and analytics firm Nielsen, and you can see it in their entirety here. Among GLAD's most striking findings is that 17% of active gamers identify as LGBTQ, and yet only a paltry 2% of games on major PC and console storefronts, PSN, Steam, Nintendo eShop, and so on, are tagged by having alphabet content, suggesting that games which actually feature queer characters or storylines remain extremely rare because nobody cares. And most of the time, these representations are terribly made. With big influential games like The Last of Us Part 2, dog shit game, and Apex Legends prominently featuring these types of characters, it's perhaps easy to feel like the alphabet representation in games is more widespread than it actually is, when the reality may be that the industry is still falling well short of adequately representing their base. There are plenty of retro games out there. I, for the most part, don't need any modern games. I can play as many retro games as I possibly want to the day I delete or pass away. Games are a refuge for many queer players. Again, there probably aren't nearly as many as they believe that there are. The data shows that many people play games are queer. No, they're not. This is a skewed graph from GLAD. For many of them in this period when hundreds of pieces of anti-alphabet legislation are being introduced, games may be something of a safe haven. According to GLAD, 55% of alphabet gamers who reside in states where such legislation has been proposed or passed say they feel more accepted in the gaming community than they do in general public areas where they live. That's because gamers are very welcoming and no one really cares what you represent as. 65% of players in these states say that they depend on games to get through tough times, as do a lot of other people. Majority of people who play games, same thing. And a whopping 75% say that games allow them to express themselves in ways they don't feel comfortable doing in the real world. As a trans person who grew up with games and who has known many other of these types of people for whom games have been a vital avenue of exploration and expression in a hostile world. I wasn't exactly surprised by this data, and yet seeing numbers asserting just how widespread such experiences are is powerful and compelling. On a video call, I asked Blair Durkee, Associate Director of Gaming for GLAD, fuck that organization, about the perception that games are doing better on the alphabet community representation front than they actually are. I think so much of our media is dominated by people who live in more progressive areas. No, she said, and they forget there's a wide swath of the country that is still deep in this anti-alphabet culture. We are anti-people, a part of this community that want to do harm to children. We don't care about the people, a part of this community that are just living their lives, not doing anything illegal, and not harming children. That was one of the things we tried to highlight with our stats, looking at alphabet gamers who live in more restrictive states that have passed and proposed anti-alphabet legislation versus alphabet gamers in other areas. Even as many alphabet players find opportunities for community and self-expression in games, they also remain at higher risk for harassment in gaming spaces. No, they don't. With 52% saying they experience harassment when playing online and 61% expressing discomfort by using voice chat in online games. If you can't hang with the boys who trash talk, because that is the majority of people who play video games, straight white males, you don't have to be a part of the community. Or you could just mute the voice chat if you're that scared. The capitalist argument for better alphabet representation. Of course, GLAD isn't just collecting this data because it's interesting. They're collecting it because they think it matters. The organization hopes to encourage developers and studios to do more to reflect and represent alphabet players. That's pretty much what they've been catering to for the most part for the last couple of years. At least the Western studios have been. The Eastern studios have not been as much. A common argument I've heard for why games haven't made more effort to incorporate these types of characters and storylines is that developers or publishers may be afraid of alienating or driving away non-alphabet players. Yes, absolutely. Because you're creating these characters, people don't want to play. Not everyone wants to play as that type of character. Just like you want more representation of the alphabet community, people that are not a part of that community want representation for their lifestyle. And the majority of people in the United States are straight. However, the data suggests that game developers are leaving money on the table. No, they're not. No, they're not. As alphabet players gravitate towards games in which they can see themselves reflected, because apparently when you play a video game, something that is non-fiction, you have to see yourself. Because you can't relate to a character if you don't see yourself 100%, which is absolutely false. I can see myself as Ryu Hayabusa. I'm not a ninja. I can see myself as Simon Belmont. I'm not a vampire hunter. So, meanwhile, 60% of non-alphabet players say that playing as an alphabet character will make no difference in the decision to buy a game. Quote, the resistance towards alphabet content in games is waning, says that report's introduction, as each successive generation of gamers is more diverse and more open to seeing alphabet representation in their games. There's been representation in gaming since the 90s, since the 2000s. It's not a new concept. Same thing with movies having black characters. There have been black characters in movies forever, but for some reason now we're more diverse, even though movies have always been diverse. When I asked Durkee what she hopes the report might help to accomplish, she said it's about, quote, changing the way the industry really thinks about our community. No, it's you trying to cater to that community when you could just create a great story, incorporate characters that are part of that community without pushing their sexuality to the forefront. Just create a good character. People will like them. I'm pretty sure people like the characters in Life is Strange because their sexuality isn't pushed to the forefront so much. They're just well-written characters. She references comments made by Dragon Age lead writer David Gator, who said that there's a percentage of the gaming population like these types of people which is already playing despite being essentially uninvited, and the industry sees us as, quote, gravy, a nice extra, but not a group worth catering to directly, because you're not the majority of people playing video games. All this work that we've been doing over the last several years, Durkee said, has been aimed at changing that mentality. Our community is a huge percentage. No, it isn't. Of the overall gaming population, nearly 1 in 5. That's definitely incorrect. Where's the proof of that one? I highly doubt that that is correct. They show no evidence to support it. And if you're ignoring that community, you're doing it to your own detriment. No, you're not. You could completely ignore that community, just create characters that are relatable, or create characters that they can relate to or like, despite the character's sexuality being different from theirs. Just like this person says that they were able to like Samus Aran, and Samus Aran's not in that community. Samus Aran's straight. There's much more to gain by being inclusive. No, there isn't, because the inclusivity is excluding everyone else. And by expanding your audience, then by catering to the same old demographic over and over. Yes, the most money that the gaming industry has ever made is catering to the community that's always been around, that's always there to buy the games, that's always there to play the games, that's always been there to have fun with the games. The majority of people that buy video games are straight white males. That's never going to change, no matter how hard they try to change this fact. No matter how hard these organizations and game developers try to change this fact, it is never going to be untrue. So it's better to make a game that everyone can like, everyone can relate to, or at least create characters that everyone will feel like they can, they can relate to the character. A character that everyone can see themselves in, even if they're not exactly the same in terms of sexuality or even gender. Because, newsflash, males like Samus Aran, and they're not female, and they like Samus Aran. People that are Puerto Rican or Hispanic can like Mario, and Mario is Italian. They don't look like them. They're not the same race. It is possible for someone who is not like the character they're playing as to like the character. Studios should just make the games they want and stop catering to certain demographics or any demographics at all. Just create the best game possible with the best people for the job. Not based on bullcrap parameters like race, gender, or sexuality. Just the best people for the job. Thank you all for checking out this video. I really do appreciate all the new subscribers, returning subscribers, new viewers, returning viewers. If you do like this video, hit that like button. Comment below what you feel about all of this. Subscribe for more content and hit the bell for notifications. Set the bell to all. That way you'll get notification anytime I post a new video or live stream. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.